Sir Keir Starmer is facing mounting pressure as Labour struggles to fill council candidate positions ahead of local elections. In some areas, the party is now directly appealing for members to step forward, with one clear message: no experience is required. Leaked emails show the Labour Local Government Committee in Sutton, southwest London, sent at least 3 messages in a single week imploring members to stand. One email warned that a number of positions remained unfilled, adding, "Don't assume others are applying." Candidates were told selections would be made locally with no complicated interview process. In some cases, members were even asked to act as so-called paper candidates, simply to ensure Labour is represented on the ballot. The issue comes at a challenging time politically. Labour is facing growing competition from smaller parties, with the Greens expected to make gains in urban and student-heavy areas, and Reform UK also increasing its support. That shifting landscape is feeding into concerns about Labour's ground operation. Professor Stephen Fisher, a political sociologist at the University of Oxford, has warned the party could lose up to 2,000 councillors. And there are also internal pressures. In some areas, sources say requirements such as all-women shortlists, aimed at improving representation, have made candidate recruitment more difficult. With nomination deadlines approaching, the pressure is intensifying. And after a recent by-election saw Labour finish behind both the Greens and Reform, scrutiny of the party's position is increasing. A poor set of results could raise further questions about Sir Keir Starmer's leadership, with senior figures already being discussed as potential challengers.
There's nothing more important than keeping your money and your identity safe online. And with so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. But this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GB News viewers. ExpressVPN is offering up to 75% off, plus 4 extra months free. That's top-level security from just £2.49 a month, and you're covered by their 30-day money-back guarantee. So just click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code now. Remember, when you're online, you are often sharing personal data, so hackers can steal your information, your passwords, your photos, and your bank details in just seconds. But ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. So why choose ExpressVPN? Well, it couldn't be easier to use. With just one click, you are protected. And ExpressVPN uses military-grade AES 256 encryption, which is the same standard trusted by the US government to guard their classified information. With their new tiered plans, you can protect up to 14 devices at once and manage passwords securely. Live chat support is available 24/7, and it typically connects you in under a minute with a real person. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off ExpressVPN, plus 4 months extra for free. Start protecting yourself today with ExpressVPN.
Let's move on to the news that has come out, yesterday now, which was a political shockwave in Westminster. Lord Ashcroft has pointed to an unprecedented 3-way split from his recent poll, putting the Green Party level with both Reform and the Conservative Party. After a boost in membership and the recent Gorton and Denton by-election success, any thoughts that Zack Polanski was just enjoying a honeymoon period appear to be fading. Since assuming the leadership, Polanski has had supporters and critics alike, with some praising his charismatic leadership and others worrying about some of the party's election practices and the feasibility of their policies, to put it, mildly. Well, with the British public's voting patterns proving to be increasingly volatile, we are truly in uncharted waters approaching the next election. Paul, and you have my sympathy. You've been thinking about the Greens this week.
I have. I've been doing a bit of research this week for a video I've been making, and I've been looking quite deeply at the Green Party policy. Before I get there, Matthew said something earlier about British culture and identifying it. It's an incredibly good point, actually. We are divided as a country. That poll is incredibly interesting. The Conservatives, Reform and the Greens level pegging, essentially. That pretty much gives a centre-right win, but would require a coalition. Or the Labour Party are not a million miles behind that, even despite what's going on with Keir Starmer, or it gives a perhaps Labour, Lib Dem, Green coalition. Now, from my perspective, that would be an absolute disaster for our country. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why. The Green Party, I think, are reality inept, economically inept, and dangerously out of touch with what's possible within the political sphere. I was saying to you in the break, Will, that they want to replace GDP with people's well-being. So GDP is quite tangible because you can measure it against trade, money in versus money out, in the most simplistic view. Well-being is entirely untangible.
It's a vibes metric.
It's
They're
a vibes metric.
Vibes, yeah.
And I think you can mistake that for being just some sort of cutesy green policy. Now, that's, for my money, again, incredibly sinister, because if you are measuring on well-being, then you are completely ignoring all the metrics that tell you how well a country is doing. Or, if you look at it as a body, how ill that body is. And trust me, with a green leadership and ignoring GDP and measuring well-being, we will be in a whole world of pain.
I don't think that's even nearly the worst of it when it comes to Greens policies, Matthew, when you think about more or less complete legalisation of drugs, when you say, I think they're just going for complete open borders, anyone who wants to come can.
I don't think they're going that far.
Well, I'm happy to be proven wrong. From what I've heard, they kind of go for a one world open borders policy. Happy to be.
They don't believe in borders.
Happy to be fact checked on that. How seriously should we take the threat from the Greens, and how possible is it they could eventually either be His Majesty's loyal opposition or, heaven forbid, the next government of this country?
So they don't believe in open borders. I'm in a strange position because Zack Polanski likes quite a lot of my tweets on Twitter or my posts on X, and yet I think he would be catastrophic as a Prime Minister. I think it's fantasy politics. I listened to his interview on the Nick Robinson podcast, Political Thinking, the other day, first of those interviews I think I've ever listened to. And it was fascinating because Polanski he's a brilliant storyteller, as he's not shy of reminding us, or others remind us. And that's something that Keir Starmer is seriously lacking in. Keir Starmer is a really poor storyteller. And we live in a world now where people want a story. This was always a possibility that we would lurch towards a reform type lead in the polls if Labour were unable to show within a couple of years that they can make things better. It's a very difficult job to show that you can make things better. But Polanski was very honest on this podcast. He said that he didn't originally accept the invitation on the podcast because he was concerned that he didn't know enough stuff, basically. He didn't have the substance to back up the storytelling. Now, that concerns me about someone who is doing as well as he is in the polls. The idea that Zack Polanski would be able to run this country, I think, is as fanciful, perhaps even more fanciful, but similarly fanciful as the idea that Nigel Farage could run this country.
Yeah, I'll come to you, but before we do, I've just pulled up the key aspects of the immigration policy from the Greens website, and the principles they believe in are a world without borders. They aim to work towards a world where people can move freely. So if not a formal policy at this stage, it is certainly a principle they believe in. They want to end immigration detention for all migrants. They want to remove language requirements for migrants. They want to give visa residents the right to vote. Some, of course, already are. I find it unbelievable, by the way, that as a member of the Commonwealth I can vote in UK elections. I don't think I should be allowed to vote. Family reunification. The Greens support allowing migrants, including students, to bring family members to the UK. And then there's a somewhat nebulous principle about ending a hostile environment, I should say, for migrants. Now, call me crazy. These are the principles right there. You can see, ladies and gentlemen, read them at your leisure. Try and stay awake as you do so. And you probably will, because they're terrifying. Alice, whatever you may think about Zack Polanski as a charismatic leader, whatever you may think about the fracturing nature of British politics, surely those principles are so incredibly out of step with where most British people are at the moment. But then I guess the difficult question is, how are the Greens doing so well?
They are a joke. Actually, they made me feel a bit sick in my stomach because they're just so out of touch to the point of being, like, worryingly fantastical. But the idea that Zack Polanski is in any way charismatic always makes me smile because I just don't see it. And I
Some
think
people
that
obviously
we
are.
are perhaps so deprived of any sort of leadership with Keir Starmer that people will gravitate literally towards anyone who seems to have some kind of conviction in anything. And maybe that's his appeal. I also think his appeal must be with the younger voters because Greens sounds like a reasonable cause that people want to support, especially in my generation where we've been told literally since we were 5 years old that the world was going to end because of climate change. So the Green support I see is probably coming from the younger side. But in terms of their actual policies, they are deeply worrying and disturbing, and he mustn't get anywhere near power, please.
Well, yeah, he's certainly striking a nerve with some people, for better or for worse.